Trains are one of the most underrated methods of transportation out there. Whether they're bringing people to and from work, treating passengers to stunning countryside views, or bringing coal and iron from the mines to the plant, trains are a vital part of our infrastructure. And while there are certainly some new amazing high-tech models out there are trains that are impressive just because of their sheer size. So join me for today's video as we count down the top 15 largest trains in the world. Number 15. The GAN. Alright, kicking off this list of large trains is the GAN. The GAN is an experiential, tourism-oriented passenger train service that operates between the northern and southern coasts of Australia, through the cities of Adelaide, Alice Springs, and Darwin on the Adelaide-Darwin Rail Corridor. Operated by Journey Beyond Rail Expeditions, its scheduled travel time, including extended stops for passengers to do off-train tours, is 53 hours 15 minutes to travel the 1,851 miles. The GAN has been described as one of the world's greatest passenger trains and is about 3,600 feet long. The GAN may be an odd name for a train, but in Australian history it's a living legend, because it is the ultimate journey through the heart of the continent. 150 years ago, the first camels were imported along with their handlers from Afghanistan, and in true Australian style they shortened their name to GAN. The GAN train derives its name from these early pioneers, and its emblem of an Afghan on a camel is in recognition of their efforts in opening up the harsh interior to the rest of Australia. Nowadays, people come from far and wide to make the trip on the historic train line, which offers multiple levels of luxury accommodations for those willing to spend a little cash. Number 14. Ore Export Line. The second longest train in the world to operate is the Ore Export Line, which is nearly 5 miles long. That's just a little shorter than the longest freight train, which we'll get to later on in this list. The line has a whopping 660 wagons and a weight of 71,000 tons, even before it's laden with raw materials. Even though it was almost as long as the BHP Iron Ore train, it was significantly lighter, which allowed for a faster journey along the rails. The train operated across the Sishen-Saldanha route in South Africa in 1989. This route is incredibly important, connecting various iron ore mines located across the Northern Cape, and each of the wagons contained a gross weight of 105 tons of ore. Other than the 660 wagons, it had a caboose and a tank car, which helped the train earn its spot here today. The train moved with the help of 9 50-kilovolt AC electric locomotives, as well as 7 diesel locomotives. In total, it traveled a distance of 535 miles and hauls about 60 million tons of ore a year. And outside of the minimal crew who operated, the line has never carried any passengers. This train is strictly business. Number 13. Echbastos Run. Hailing from the former Soviet Union, the Echbastos Run is the third longest freight train in the world. Coming in at over 4 miles long, this thing really knows how to ride the rails. This freight train is fitted with 439 wagons, all packed to the brim with nothing but coal, and weighs 43,400 tons. This train operated in the Ural Mountains and was used to transport coal to power plants in the region and neighboring areas. Operated by Kazakh Railway, it was among the first fleet of trains that transported over 330,000 tons of coal to plants in Echbastos and Krasnogorsk. It made its record trip from Echbastos Station on February 20, 1986, while it weighed some 43,000 tons and measured a total of 6.5 kilometers long after being loaded with coal. And for a very brief moment in time, this was the longest train in the world. And while our dependency on coal may be waning as the years go by, a freight train hauling as much coal as this did in the 1980s was certainly one of the more paramount lines of its time, all while setting the stage for some even longer trains and railroads down the line. Number 12. Norfolk and Western Railway. When it comes to famous rail companies, there are very few who can surpass the likes of the Norfolk and Western Railways. One of their trains in particular really put the rest of the rail riders to shame. This particular coal train from Norfolk and Western Railway had 500 wagons that helped give it a total length of just over 4 miles, meaning it would take the average person about 3/4 of an hour to run from one end to the other. With a weight of 48,170 tons, it was one of the heaviest trains on Earth. This coal-carrying freight train was used to transport coal along the Eagar-Portsmouth route and was powered by a total of 6 locomotives that were spread throughout that length. These locomotives were 6-axle diesel-electric, manufactured by General Electric. finally made its way into the record books when it completed its record journey on November 15, 1967, from West Virginia to Portsmouth, Ohio, while fully loaded with coal, having been the largest freight train to make the trip at that time. Number 11. Union Pacific Railroad Company. Another one of the more prominent railroad operators in North America is the Union Pacific Railroad Company. It's been around since the late 1960s and is part of a duopoly of long-haul rails in the western United States. So it's no surprise that the conglomerate owns one of the largest trains in the world, because the bigger the train, the bigger the haul, and the bigger the haul, the bigger the paycheck. This specific freight train is almost exactly 1,000 feet shorter than the previous train from the Norfolk and Western Railway, with a length of about 3.5 miles. It was also significantly lighter than other long freight trains, as it transported shipping containers instead of raw materials. It had a total weight of 14,059 tons and was fitted with 296 container wagons. This freight train under the Union Pacific Railroad Company is probably best known for making its epic 2-day journey from the 8th to the 10th of January 2010. Used as a general cargo train, it ran from Texas to Los Angeles, where it carried a total of about 600 shipping containers, double stacked. The train traveled at a maximum speed of 70 miles an hour and was powered by 9 diesel-electric locomotives. Number 10. BNSF Railway. The BNSF Railway is one of the largest freight railroads in North America. One of 7 North American Class 1 railroads, the BNSF has 35,000 employees, 32,000 miles of track in 28 states, and nearly 8,000 locomotives riding under their banner. It has 3 transcontinental routes that provide rail connections between the western and eastern United States. BNSF trains traveled over 169 million miles in 2010, more than any other North American railroad, but they've also got one of the largest trains in the world too. One of the longest trains by BNSF Railway had a total length of about 2.5 miles. This train carried 458 wagons and broke the previous record of the longest train by BNSF, which was a little over 3 kilometers in length, with 435 wagons. Operated by BNSF Railway, this freight train primarily moved shipping containers and operated between Los Angeles and Clovis, New Mexico, and was powered by a total of 7 locomotives spread across the 2.5-mile train. This freight run was part of an initiative by the operator that started in 2007 to test longer trains. The previous record was set in January 2009, and the Los Angeles-Clovis route broke that record. Number 9. Indian Railways Vasuki. Indian Railways is owned by the Ministry of Railways in the Government of India and operates India's national railway system. It manages the 4th largest national railway system in the world by size, with a total route length of 42,200 miles as of March 31, 2022. And as of April 2022, 32,000 miles or 83% of the broad gauge routes are electrified with 25 kilovolt 50 Hz AC electric traction. But unlike so many other entries we've seen today, the trains under the Indian Railways are mixed, carrying both freight, cargo, and passengers. But it's their Vasuki train in particular that raises people's eyebrows. The Vasuki recently became the longest train operating in the Southeast Central Railway Zone in India. It has a total length of 2.17 miles, and it's made up of 295 wagons, all chugging along. It also beat the previous record of the Shishnag, which measured just under 2 miles in length. Vasuki was a mixed-use carriage train and achieved its length by combining 5 rakes of trains into one long unit, with the locomotives spread out along the length of the entire train. Its usual journey is between the Bailai and Korba train stations, which it completes in about 7 hours. On a historic day in India, when it made its record-breaking journey, the train was operated by just 1 driver and 1 assistant. Number 8. Estrada de Ferrocarajas. The Carajas Railway is a railway line linking the cities of Parahuapebas, Para, and São Luís in Brazil. This is one of the few in Brazil to carry passengers as well as cargo. It's one of the largest passenger railways in operation in Brazil, with 5 stations and 10 stops, covering 5 cities. However, the EF315 is specialized in transporting mineral cargo extracted from the Serra dos Carajas mine and taken to the ports of São Marcos Bay for export. It transports over 120 million tons of cargo and 350,000 passengers a year. The Estrada de Ferrocarajas, or simply EFC, is a freight train that measures nearly 2 miles long, and at the time of its operation it was the largest train in the world and was fitted with a total of 330 wagons. The train traveled on a route that connected the states of Para and Maranhão. The 330 wagons transported by the multiple locomotives carried a mix of cargo. This EFC railway itself that the train traveled on was created in 1985, and this rail network in particular measures a total of 555 miles in length, and it's still used to transport everything from minerals and shipping containers to even passengers. Number 7. Indian Railway Shishnag. Indian Railways again managed to outdo themselves in 2021 when they broke the record with their longest train ever, the 1.7-mile-long Shishnag freight train. The Southeast Central Railway Zone recently broke another record by running 4 trains together. This super-long train, called the Shishnag, is the longest ever train to run in the country over the Indian Railways network. This extra-long Shishnag train has been formed by amalgamating 4 empty rakes, powered by 4 electric locomotive sets, according to the details shared by the Southeast Central Railways. Lauding this noteworthy achievement, Railway Minister Piyush Goyal tweeted about the record Shishnag train. According to the Railway Minister, this experiment of attaching 4 rakes to run as one single train was successful. This enables more goods to be transported from one place to another in less time. In another statement, the union minister stated that the Shishnag train is giving a boost to freight transportation by running 51 wagons with 4 trains combined together between Nagapur and Korba. The unique journey was between the Bhilai and Korba train stations, which it completed in about 7 hours. On this historic day in India, the train was operated by just one driver and their assistant. That is pretty impressive. Number 6. Lee Creek Ore Train. In the 1940s, hundreds of thousands of tons of coal were railed from Lee Creek, and heavy demands were placed on the Northern Railway line that had first been constructed in the 1880s. Double-headed T-class locomotives would haul cars on the line connecting Lee Creek to Hawker, Quorn, Peterborough, and Tarrawee. But the Australian Railway has come a long way since then, and now the Lee Creek Ore Train measures at nearly 2 miles long. Just to put that into perspective, walking from one of the trains to the other could take over 30 minutes. During its run, the freight train was equipped with 161 wagons and had a total weight of 11,000 tons, making it one of the lightest trains we'll see here today. This coal-hauling train completed its record journey from Lee Creek to Port Augusta and is still in operation today. It travels some 323 miles during each trip to reach its destination. With the amount of coal it carries, it's required to be pulled by 3 locomotives. These are 82-class diesel-electric locomotives from Pacific National. Take note that this is also the longest coal train to operate in Australia, and shorter coal runs are still made today. Number 5. Shenhua Number 3. China's Shenhua Railways is one of the more important lines for the nation's economy. The nearly 1,500-mile railway network accommodates over 800 locomotives and over 50,000 self-owned wagons, making the company the second-largest rail operator in China, with an annual transportation capacity of 530 million tons. China Shenhua is known for offering information-based and intelligent railway construction and operation, and has jointly manufactured the world's most powerful electric locomotive, the Shen 24, built China's first intelligent dedicated maintenance line, and launched the world's first 25,000-ton heavy-haul train, equipped with LTE-based mobile telecommunication systems. Its smart locomotives pulling the 10,000-ton heavy-haul train made it the first one in China, but the company also has some of the longest trains in the world today. The Shenhua Number 3 train operates from the Datong Mining Center in the Shanxi Province to the port city of Qinhuangdao in Hebei Province, known as the Daqin Line. Predominantly used for distribution of coal. The Shenhua 3 is one of the longest freight trains in the world at over 3 miles long. It's powered by 6 locomotives and can be filled with 20,000 tons of coal in just 3 hours. Annually, the line moves hundreds of millions of tons from one of China's largest coal production centers to then be distributed by ship to its major consumption areas. Number 4. Mauritania Railway. The Mauritania Railway is the national railway of Mauritania. Construction of the line began in 1960, with it opening in 1963. It consists of a single 437-mile railway line, linking the iron mining center of Zouarat with the port city of Nouadhibou via Frederick and Chouam. The state agency controls the railway line, and trains on the Mauritania Railway are up to 1.9 miles in length, making them among the longest and heaviest in the world. They consist of 3 or 4 diesel-electric locomotives, 200 to 210 cars each carrying up to 84 tons of iron ore, and 2 to 3 service cars. The total amount averages about 16.6 million tons per year. Passengers are also occasionally transported by train. These services are managed by a subsidiary, and passenger cars are sometimes attached to freight trains, but more often passengers simply ride atop the ore hopper cars freely, which is always quite the sight. Passengers include locals, merchants, and occasionally some adventurous tourists. Conditions for these passengers are incredibly harsh, with daytime temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius and death from falls being common. In January 2019, the railway resumed tourism after a 10-year hiatus. Part of the track ran through a forbidden tourist area. One of the stops on the tourist route is an iron mine, and that route is typically operated by a locomotive carrying 2 passenger carriages. Number 3. Valle Carajas Railroad. The Valle Carajas is 555 miles long and connects the largest open-pit iron ore mine in the world in Carajas, southeastern Para, to the port in San Luis. In all, about 120 million tons of ore and 350,000 passengers travel on it each year. About 35 compositions circulate on the track simultaneously, including one of the world's longest trains in regular operation, with 330 cars and measuring 2 miles in length. Inaugurated in 1985, the Carajas Railroad is not only large, it also leads the ranking of the most efficient railways in Brazil thanks to constant investments in technology. The resources range from an advanced drive system and control center to simulators and radio frequency identification. These trains have come a long way since the first 9 miles of rails were laid in August of 1982. The railroad's feasibility studies and engineering projects got underway almost a decade earlier in 1974, but the official inauguration only happened 11 years later, on February 28, 1985. And now in 2022, it's known as the most efficient train in the country. Number 2. Australian BHP Iron Ore. The Australian BHP Iron Ore is the longest train ever recorded in history at approximately 4.6 miles long. In the Pilbara region of Western Australia, BHP owns and runs the Mount Newman Railway. This is a private rail network designed to transport iron ore. The Goldsworthy Railway is one of the other 2 rail lines that BHP runs in the Pilbara. The 7.3-kilometer-long BHP Iron Ore on the Mount Newman line set a record for the longest and heaviest freight train in June of 2001. 8 strong General Electric diesel locomotives propelled this long-distance freight train, covered about 171 miles between the Yendi mine and Port Hedland in Western Australia. The journey lasted about 10 hours and 4 minutes. This was because of a faulty coupler that parted during the climb over the Chichester Ranges, delayed it by 4 hours and 40 minutes. Following the repairs, it continued the rest of the way without any further issues. Of course, it gets more interesting. Driven by a single driver, the line's 99,000-ton, 682-car train was able to carry 181 million pounds of iron ore. With a length of 7,300 meters, the Australian BHP Iron Ore can fit about 24 Eiffel Towers in it. For context, the Eiffel Tower is about 300 meters tall. To put this weight of the train into perspective, it's the same weight as about 402 Statues of Liberty. Yeah, it's important to note that the BHP already held the record for the heaviest train on May 28, 1996, with a 10-loco, 540-wagon special, grossing 72,000 tons. In 2001, it set a new record and beat the previous record set by South Africa in 1991 for the longest train. This was a 71,000-ton train that ran on the South African iron ore between Shishnag and Saldanha in 1991. It had 660 wagons in it and was 7,200 meters long, being pulled by 9 electric and 7 diesel locomotives. Number 1. The Big Boy 4014. The largest single locomotive in existence was another product of Union Pacific, the Big Boy 4014. 25 Big Boys were built exclusively for Union Pacific Railroad, the first of which was delivered in 1941. The locomotives were 132 feet long and weighed 1.2 million pounds. Because of their great length, the frames of the Big Boys were hinged or articulated to allow them to negotiate curves. They had a 4-8-8-4 wheel arrangement, which meant that they had 4 wheels on the leading set of pilot wheels which guided the engine, 8 drivers and another set of 8 drivers, and 4 wheels followed which supported the rear of the locomotive. The massive engines normally operated between Ogden, Utah and Cheyenne, Wyoming. There are 7 Big Boys on public display in various cities around the country. They can be found at St. Louis, Missouri, Dallas, Texas, Omaha, Nebraska, Denver, Colorado, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Cheyenne, Wyoming. Big Boy number 4014 was delivered to Union Pacific in December of 1941. The locomotive locomotive was retired in December 1961, having traveled over 1 million miles in its 20-year service. Union Pacific reacquired number 4014 from the Rail Giants Museum in Pomona, California in 2013 and relocated it back to Cheyenne to begin a multi-year restoration process. It returned to service in May 2019 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad's completion.
Watch our Vehicles playlist for more top 15 videos about amazing vehicles. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best vehicle videos.